Meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming together today for our meeting of the Service Authority. I don't think we have any needs to consider electronic participation since we're all sitting here. So let's move into minutes if we could. We had a number of sets of minutes. What's the pleasure of the authority on that?
Mr. Chairman, I wasn't here for the first two meetings on that list, so I'd like to abstain for those if possible.
Okay,
If we can split them out.
all right, so let's do that. Are you guys comfortable just doing 2 and 2, or you want to take them one at a time?
I'm comfortable with doing all of them. I think I sent was something revised? One of the minutes, anyway, I just communicated with staff, so
Okay, what was that revision?
you don't have it, okay.
I can certainly.
I'm trying to think what it was. When I reviewed them, I made some comment, but I think everything's okay. It wasn't a major thing.
I think that was revised, Susan. That was when Gary was still here, right?
May have been.
I think, and you sent it to me and I forwarded it and I'm sure that was revised.
Wasn't anything major that would
Yes, ma'am.
impact anything. So I move that we approve them.
Okay, got a motion?
A second.
A second. I can't recognize that you'll be abstaining since these are taken in total, right? So I'll do this roll call just so Kim can abstain.
Aye.
And I'm an aye and abstain. So the minutes passed. Thank you very much. Brings us back to budget where we've been a couple of times before. Heard this, awaiting some outcomes on mediation. I understand it, we're still waiting the outcomes on mediation.
Mhm.
So my thought is let's go ahead and push it back to our January meeting. Hopefully by then we're done. I don't know what the pleasure of the authority is on that, but gives us, some time there.
Well, I've even echoed, just go ahead and do the operating year because by the time we get through all of the back and forth and litigation, it's probably going to be June.
I think it's a fair point. I'm trying to keep a little pressure on a timeline here for legal counsel and the like, so it's helpful to have that. Maybe January, Susan, I concede the point and just go the rest of the year. If you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, I'm good. I just think we need to pass something.
Agree.
Great.
I think, yeah. We have unanimity on that.
We do agree on
That we all sort of disagree on. Okay, so I guess that would mean that I would entertain a motion, same language as last time, Alec, but for 90 days, you've got,
I've written out if anybody would like it from my side.
can you read
the
it,
same?
please?
I'd be happy to, sure. The motion would be to approve the fiscal year 2023 budget as presented by staff through January 26th, 2022, which would be a 90-day period, except that the 75% shown to be paid in the budget to Campbell and the 25% shown to be paid to the authority from airspace reserve in fiscal years 2022 and 2023 will not be part of the budget, but will be held in a separate account. The portion of the 25% shown as revenue to the authority will instead be funded by borrowing that amount from the closure post-closure fund. Member jurisdictions will use their best efforts to resolve all issues currently in litigation and agree to continue non-binding mediation.
So move.
Motion, is there a second?
I'm just waiting for a second so I can discuss it.
I'll
Ask the
second it for the
question.
purpose of
Okay,
discussion.
for the purpose of
Yep,
discussion.
yep.
Yes. I just had a question. Is there any way we could approve this FY budget? Because it sounded like the motion alludes to calendar year FY 22. So if we only, it said through the 22-23.
Yeah, and Candy, as I recall, you helped us out with some clarification on the dates when we first started doing this, right? To be specific to the budget year. Am I recollecting that correctly?
What happened was that,
Potentially, but I don't remember what that was at the
this
moment.
might
Okay,
be, so I would have to interject.
Sorry, it's so small.
what do you got?
I
Ken?
mean, that pretty much mirrors what we did in September, other
Right.
than the January date. So I was just following along here in the minutes, but
And that was because that was calculated differently starting as September 1st. And that's when that split thing happened, the old excess revenue as we knew it. That's when we started counting that. So if it's as of September 1st of 21, that was in the fiscal year 22 and
Right.
going forward.
Okay, additional discussion?
No, I was just thinking there was a way to simplify it, but it sounds like I may complicate it if I try to simplify it. So
I appreciate that. Punting for 90 days, right?
Yeah.
All right.
I was just going to suggest we approve the budget and then only appropriate to cover that, but that's okay. go ahead.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second. Thank you for the discussion. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thanks. Get on that in January, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that which brings us to audit engagement letter. Governor, you've got me down here. I know this only from the PDC that now we want the actual authorizing governing bodies to consider and approve the audit engagement letter. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Our auditors from Robinson Farmer Cox have, I guess, evolved in the way that they're administering audits. And they're asking their clients, their PDCs, towns, et cetera, if they would have their governing bodies approve the audit engagement letter, which has historically been a chair and executive director or CAO responsibility. And they felt like that their argument for that was to put the entity on notice, board on notice that this was being conducted. And they felt like that since they are making the final presentation to the board, the town council, et cetera, that it made sense to kind of put them on notice that the process has begun. And that and secondly, it also helps to allow the staff to introduce that there may be certain communications between the auditors and the board members. And in this case, each of you has probably by now received an audit or a risk assessment, fraud risk assessment form. And I was just discussed at the PDC meeting. The answer may be, I don't know. That's fine. If each of you want to put your name and how many years you've served on the authority and send that back to our auditors, that's appreciated. It's just part of what they feel like is a thorough review of our finances.
So you need a motion to what? Accept and
Motion to approve the audit engagement letter.
And this letter essentially is the contract. Instead of a 2 or 3 year period of time, they're going to be doing this every year for 1 year.
all right, what's the group's pleasure on that?
I guess I'm still a little confused. Because usually we get this engagement letter like after they've made their presentation that we, or either it's for the next audit. This says FY 22, which would be previous audit. So they are they doing it different for PDCs maybe?
They do it the same as for both PDC and the authority.
Okay.
I have experienced the Robinson Farmer Cox at my previous spot, Greater
Mhm.
PDC. And one of the notable differences in that, like Tanya just mentioned, is that at Greater PDC, we had a multi-year contract
Mhm.
with Robinson Farmer Cox. In this case, CVPDC does not currently have a multi-year contract with Robinson Farmer Cox. It is on just 1 year at a time. And so they felt like that. And they had this conversation with Gary and Rosalie last year, and Gary and Rosalie wanted to continue the way they had done it. But they felt like their best recommendation was that we would accept this in part because we don't have a contract, but also in part because they felt like that the board has the fiduciary responsibility of oversight, and the audit is really being performed on behalf of the board more so than behalf of the staff. And so that's why they are encouraging authorities and folks to do this way. If the board were to choose not to approve it, it would beg the question, well, what should we do? Should we just continue should I simply sign and return it? I would assume that you would want the authority's finances on. So that has already been largely completed, to be honest with you, because it's, the end of October.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Point, and I don't want to speak for you,
Yeah.
but I understood to be around the timeline. We're approving in October an engagement letter we're looking back. It's a look back.
Yeah.
We normally would be getting a management discussion.
They didn't send
analysis
this.
letter and an audit.
They did send this the week that they got here. So
That's
we
typical.
received this
Yeah.
when it's already started.
Yeah.
So it'd be
Okay,
nice if they gave it to us prior to starting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I was confused because I thought the
Yeah.
timing on this is.
Yeah, and they do include this in their completed audit, probably where you have seen it.
Mhm.
And maybe we can ask them for next year. Give it to us before you do it.
Yes.
Do you procure services?
Yeah.
Because you could do the multi-year through a procurement process.
Yeah, we could put the thing out. That's what we did at Crater. We put the thing out for RFP. We chose between 4 companies, went with RFCA, and then they proceeded to do our audit.
all right, well, I'm pro audit, whether
Yeah.
it's a look back or go forward.
Whatever.
I'm happy to engage folks who are already engaged. Candy, I'm
Just a
sorry.
question, why do they include 2021 here? Because that's already also been done. Is that a typo?
We signed we signed a letter like this last year, so I'm not sure why they have both years in there.
It's a comparison for years. They always report 2 years at a time when they give us our financial statements at the end of the quarter or end of the year. So we have 22 and 21 to compare with everything they present in the financials.
And the cover page on the 2021 audit says 2020 and 2021.
Okay.
It's because in part they're doing a stress test, looking back to the previous year to make sure all their findings weren't affected by invoices that came in after the fiscal year closed.
Plus the fiscal years is divided year, the calendar year 21 and the calendar year 22. So that,
July to June.
for their legality, they have to do that.
I'm not sure about that, but yeah.
Who's the primary auditor that works on the authorities audits from RFCA? You know that?
I think it's Matt McLaren. I think he's doing both.
We use them as well. So we have David Foley. So I was just curious. In our letter, usually, I don't think it has both those year ends like that. I just thought it was a little odd. That's all.
I don't know if you want to defer action or, I don't think we need to.
No, I don't want to hold it.
Okay,
It's already in process.
And they have to complete it by end of
that's
December.
my thought. It'll have a ton of. I do think it's an unusual next step, but like I said, I think we're all heartily behind a good audit of the authority. So anyone willing to make a motion to accept the audit engagement?
So moved.
I've got a motion and a second. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Brings us to organizational reports. Please, over to you, staff.
Thank you. Sandy Dobbin is going to present our financial report for the first quarter of the current fiscal year. I read over review the highlights and happy to entertain any questions you might have. Thank you, Sandy.
We've compiled everything through September 30th, and we reviewed them. Everything seems to be on par with what we expect for our budget, with the exception of our equipment repairs and equipment rental. Those are a little higher than our normal expenditures. We really don't see any reason other than it's just equipment's broke, we have to fix it. And the rental is mainly just, we've had to get signals in for the roads for traffic control. And that's why those expenses for the equipment rental is higher than normal. We're aware of what the issues are. I guess
The equipment, outside maintenance costs for equipment. One of the reasons is we looked at that last week and I did find where there was a capital project that got charged into operation. So we're going to work on.
that was in FY '22. That's not this current year.
Yeah.
So
This year we had this year and last year, we've had some significant expenses repairing our scales, which is not heavy equipment. It was our 10-year-old set of scale at the Livestock Road that we had to rebuild basically. So
We have that issue a lot also. Lightning strike, every time
we have lightning
there's a
strike.
storm, lightning hits those. Yeah.
and I guess the only other thing to mention is we finally did receive our vehicle we ordered in our budget year FY '22. So we went and picked that up the end of September. So we do have that finally in and accounted for as well. And that's about all I have unless you have any questions.
Thank you. Anybody got any questions? Financials? I appreciate the candor of a statement like equipment broke and we paid to fix it. So.
Not much you can do.
Get that. All right. I'm moving along then. Staffing update looks like it's next.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to give you an update of where we are in staff. A couple of things are as normal changing and evolving. First of all, Tanya and Gailey has announced that she would be moving to Ohio in the spring. So just wanted to let you know that. So we're
She can't commute.
Well, we might,
Telework.
we might could talk about what telecommuting work looks like, but for time being, that's our expectation is that she would be moved to Ohio and we would need to go out and find another finance officer, which Sandy will be, of course, staying with us. Sandy's been with us since April. So I don't know if Sandy's actually been formally introduced, but Sandy's been doing a great job for us and it's kind of the lead finance person for the authority work. And then Tanya's been doing radio board and PDC stuff. So that's kind of how the divisional labor is broken out. So, that's one thing to know. The second thing to know is just to give you a brief update on the actual landfill staff itself. We're currently down 4 people. We have a open mechanic shop assistant position that's been open for about 1.5 years and have not been able to fill that to date. We have 2 operator positions. We're looking at moving the gentleman from the maintenance position to the operator position currently. So that position will open up as well. And one of our challenges is that all those positions are posted at right around at or below $20 an hour. And so y'all, and this isn't particularly newsworthy, I suppose, but y'all know that there's national pressure on minimum wage upward and inflation and salaries are at a point where it's difficult for us to attract applications. And then with the salary structure of the current staff, the wage structure of current staff, to go up past $20 an hour puts us in a compression situation also. So those are kind of the pressures that we're under from a staffing and personnel situation. So with 4 vacancies, that puts us 20% below full staff. So,
And 2 out this week with COVID, so more pressure.
We wondered if there was some correlation between the repair bill and people being out. We couldn't necessarily chart that. We did a little statistical review and couldn't exactly prove anything. So we don't want to make that comparison. But the fact that we do have a number of people out does put pressure on the existing staff, and it's difficult to replace that under the current environment. And so we hope that would change over the next couple of months, but I just would ask that you simply keep that in mind as we move forward with our calendar year. We are adopting our 2023 budget again today. We'll be looking at a 2024 budget at our next meeting in January, God willing. So just ask you, just chew on that as we go forward here.
I don't know about everybody else, but we're experiencing the same issues in Nelson staffing.
Yeah, it's been a challenge, yes.
Mhm. You hire one and 2 weeks later, they're giving their notice.
Okay. Anything else on staffing, or are we moving on to directors? On directors report?
Yeah, speaking of the 2024 budget, we're going to be working on that next couple months and be presenting that in January. I did include an updated pro forma budget that we use as a guide for our budget. It's always been pretty accurate. But as if you've reviewed it, you'll see almost a $4 jump between 23 and 24 in the tipping fee. That is due to a lot of factors. But one is that we've had only one 50-cent increase in FY 18, and that was in the last 9 years. So we've got a little catching up to do. As you can see, the pro forma is projecting a steady increase through FY 29. But at $40 a ton in FY 29, that will likely still be very, very good solid waste disposal fees at that point, as is what we're charging now and what we will present in our FY 23 budget. So anyway, just wanted to give you a heads up before we go into January.
Moving along.
Tonnage report, you've got the graph. You can see the tonnage is up a little bit over last year. And that's reflected in our cost of service is a little bit lower than our member rate right now. That will typically balance out as we go into the winter months when our tonnages will typically drop down. Then and then we enter into the spring months, it comes back up some. So we feel pretty good about where we are budget wise and tonnage wise.
Okay. Any questions on that? Next is the odor report, I believe.
Yeah, lastly, the odor report, and I will update you. I think the last update was at our May 25th meeting, at our regular meeting. So in June, we've had 2 complaints from 2 addresses. July, 1 complaint from 1 address. August, we had 0 complaints. September, we had 6 complaints from 2 addresses. And then so far this month, we've had 1 complaint from 1 address.
Okay, thank you for that. The 6th in September pops off, of course, Mark, with something going on.
We tried to track that down. There was nothing unusual going on at the landfill or any odor control equipment. The weather change during the fall months probably had a little something to do with it, with the cool mornings and as the day heats up, the odors will tend to dissipate, but in the mornings and the evenings when it gets cool, that might have had something to do with it.
Okay. All right, anything further on director's report?
That's all I have.
Okay. That would move us into closed session, but as I noted, Mr. Hefty's got a family emergency, so he indicated to remind everybody that he would call around to authority members. So stay tuned for those calls and then pick up whatever we may need to as next steps, I presume, at our January meeting. So if there's nothing further, that will bring us to public comment. I see we've got some folks, I can't make out the names, participating electronically. Is there anyone who would like to offer public comment this afternoon? Sorry.
Mr. Hardy?
Mr. Hardy, I understand you'd like to make comments today?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to share some things with you. Just number one, I know I've already made you aware, Mr. Rogers, but the agenda that was sent out to folks on mailing lists and everything like that about contact that agenda did not include the electronic connection information. So please, I would ask that staff, when they send that out, I was in receipt of it only 2 days before the meeting, so that's a very tight time frame. But also that agenda did not have electronic participation on it. It does on your posted website. So luckily I went there. Others may not have gone there, but I went there, and it is on the link that's posted on your website, but was not what was given to citizens. So I just wanted to make the board and staff aware of that issue. Also, I want to speak to something personally, which is, I know Mr. Gibson alluded to odor complaint. I will assume that came from me. As far as this month, on October 23rd, which was a Sunday and a beautiful day, I can tell you that, traveling Callahan Road and taking my kids to Sunday school, coming back with them, going back to church. So throughout that entire morning, on a very long span, house numbers I don't have down exactly, but I can tell you that from my driveway on Callahan Road and my home to at least where the Rossers live, but one of the mailboxes I know well is 888. That's in the vicinity of my friend Bill Carwile. Out on the road, noticeable landfill gases could be experienced. I could breathe them in my vehicle with the windows up. It's very evident to me. A lot of people don't realize what it is. It doesn't smell like garbage or trash. It has a unique odor, and again, comes from the decomposition of waste and from the landfill. So I know where it was coming from. It was a beautiful morning, and we just hate not to be able to open our doors and windows in our home at our personal residence, which is over a half mile away from this facility. I did email staff and the DEQ. I have made some complaints in recent months, and I am concerned that the Region 2000 staff has not once reached out to me. That is to verify or to ask questions. And as DEQ has asked them questions and I've seen those email responses, I have still yet to see responses, even with October 23rd, as they were trying to investigate from a distance if there would have been any issue on that particular day. Another issue that I would like to bring forward to your board has to do with a neighbor that is close to the landfill that is experiencing problems related to the Region 2000 Services Authority landfill, and that is Highland Heights Baptist Church. I have met with their pastor. I attend there regularly. My family does, and it is, if not the largest, one of the largest congregations in all of Campbell County, and is not too far away from the facility. But they are experiencing serious problems and damage to their property from vectors. And that would be really the different variety of birds, but especially the vultures that really do damage to their rooftop. They are having to face the obstacle of thousands of dollars of repair. And I will be sure to make sure that they are in contact with the Services Authority about that. That's what I had advised them a couple of days ago, and I will make that formal link after this meeting. The pastor there is Josh Carter. He is a good man, and shared with me this issue that the church has been experiencing. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Is there anyone else joining us today who'd like to offer public comment? Staff, are we seeing anybody queue up? All right, seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to a calendar item staff has prepared for us.
So, Mr. Chairman, I thought that rhythm of the authority was to have a calendar year, scheduled by calendar year. So typically you had on your last meeting of the given calendar year, adopted a slate of meetings for the future coming year. And so I posed 4 dates. They're all which are the fourth Wednesday of a month. They are typically the every 3 months, but you would note that I've shown a June meeting instead of a July meeting because of the need to adopt a budget. So certainly wide open to your preferences on what that calendar should look like, but that was a suggestion from staff.
Appreciate you giving us some dates to calendar. I think recently we've deliberated more over a budget and with a pro forma that shows a $4 increase. I think this is a great schedule to start from, but I anticipate April, May, maybe needing some additional conversations. So I'll just talk. I don't have specific dates in mind, but we just encourage us to carve out some time to dig in on that. But do you need action on this calendar? Are you looking for action?
Approve it for public notice.
Do you want to defer it to January?
I'm okay with adopting it because we can amend it and it pegs our January meeting. We're going to come together anyway, but I'm happy either way. So,
I'm just saying, if we don't have an operating budget, I mean, the calendar.
I'm optimistic.
Okay, I'm just
optimistic.
saying from a comment I heard earlier when I wanted to do the whole year.
That's right. All right, yeah. Happy to go with the pleasure of the
That's
authority on this
fine,
one.
yeah.
So I think staff's looking for a motion. Do we want to make a motion or do we?
Ben's
want to wait?
brain's being optimistic.
That's right. I'll move to the calendar as presented.
I'll go ahead and second that. Is there any discussion on the calendar? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. All right, I think that's everything I had down on my agenda. Staff, was there anything else for us today?
No, sir. Appreciate y'all. Time and attention. Appreciate the help.
Authority members, anything while we're together?
I do. I kind of wanted to speak to Mr. Hardy's comments. I think first of all, it's unfair to assume that the vultures are there because of the landfill. Because we're having them in the town of Appomattox right across from my house. They seem to find areas and they migrate there and they stay there. We had actually called in USDA during that time frame to see what we could do because there's no shooting in town. So they were using these rubber bullets or something to scare them that put out a big bang. One thing they did tell us is feral cats draw these vultures into areas because people have a tendency to leave food out for the cats. And so there are other reasons that if we, are presented with a bill or something, we could probably reach out to USDA and get other justifications as to why these vultures locate in areas. Because they'll give you some directives of what not to do. So I'm just saying it's not necessarily because of the landfill. And I'd also commend staff for what you've done for odor mitigation. I think you've made all efforts to do it. And I think if individual residents have complaints, they need to talk to you directly and not depend on someone else to report this on a monthly basis at these meetings. And we may want to entertain a public comment policy where a person can only speak on one subject matter twice a year or something, so that we don't have the same repeated people speaking on every agenda. And that's something maybe we can entertain also. Other than that, that was my notes. I'm good.
I have a question for Clark, I guess. Are you able, or do you have a permit to do something about the vultures at the landfill? I know that you can get one.
We have contacted the wildlife agency that governs the management of those migratory birds. They are a protected species. And we have, I'm not sure if our permit is still current, but we did have a permit at one time to use the
Those rubber.
the noisemakers.
Yes.
They're not terribly effective, but that's about all you can really do. Because you can't shoot them without and the permit to actually kill them is pretty long and drawn out. We have not done that. And I don't see us going in that direction either, but yeah, the vultures are a problem, in many different areas. In Bedford, we have them in the field behind my house. They roost in the trees behind my house, and they use that noisemaker back there from time to time. But yeah, we do try to monitor the situation with the vultures, and when they do become more of a nuisance, we'll break out the noisemakers. We have a pistol that shoots blanks.
Thank you.
That's what the town does.
Mhm.
They're not allowed to no open firearms in town.
Mhm.
Okay, anything else from anybody? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Seconded, all in favor? Aye. All right, stand adjourned. Thank you all.
I can't believe that we jumped in.